This draft season, I'm kicking off the ranking festivities early, discussing the top players at every position before the season even starts. The offensive line wraps up the offensive side of the ball, and with so much versatility on the board, all O-line will be combined today. If you're new, subscribe to the channel as I'm releasing draft content all year long. But for now, I'm Chase Keller, and welcome to Preseason Top 10 Offensive Linemen in the 2025 NFL Draft. Enjoy! Just like the other episodes so far, these are not my personal rankings. Instead, these are the rankings on mock draft database's consensus big board. With that being said, let's start from the 10th best offensive lineman in Alabama center Parker Brailsford. Kalen DeBoer took over for Nick Saban after he retired and brought a bunch of baggage with him from Washington. Brailsford is one of them. In his one season with the Huskies, he allowed 1 sack and 2 hits on 14 pressures, along with being graded as a top-notch run blocker by PFF. This consistency in his playstyle is primarily because of his hand technique, where he wins on leverage so much. He explodes off the line extremely fast for a center, and he's able to use that explosiveness to provide great knockback power. And his ability as a recovery blocker is phenomenal, and that's why his pressure numbers are high, but the sack numbers are low. Now, Brailsford is very small for an O-lineman, let alone a center, as he sits at 6'2", 275 pounds, 21st percentile and 1st percentile respectively. He's got the upside with his play strength, but he's still visibly struggled to neutralize bigger nose tackles, and his footwork can be a bit laxed, as he can drift away from his spot and leave the defender too much space to work with. Overall, Brailsford is a fairly dominant center prospect who just might not be ready for the league yet. Nonetheless, he's number 10 on this list. Moving on to the 9th spot, consensus has the first fifth-year player on this list in Georgia guard Tate Ratledge. As an experienced guard for a great offensive line, it's a little shocking that he goes back to try and improve his stock yet again. In his 2 starting seasons, Ratledge has allowed only 11 pressures and 1 sack, while having average grades in the run game. With 1,570 snaps on his belt, these numbers are actually very impressive. Tagging onto that experience strength, he has legitimate play strength on the field in both the pass and the run. He also has the viable athleticism at the guard position, especially with the lateral agility that is super impressive in the pass game. He's just a super violent blocker at attack point and will be a NFL impact all around if everything pans out. Now, that violence can sometimes turn into a weakness in his game, as he does tend to be overly aggressive in the run game. His balance combines with that to bring questions about his run blocking capabilities, as he can be ripped down easily, not because of the strength, but because of his balance. And he's just too inconsistent at the moment, and that's probably why he stayed, so he can improve that consistency all around. But even without the consistency, he's still highly touted as a top interior offensive line prospect. He's number 9 on this list. Now we have our second transfer of the video with Arkansas tackle Fernando Carmona, ranked 8th on this list. A 3-year player at San Jose State, he's still got some traits that need to develop, but overall, he's a transfer to monitor. In nearly 1,600 snaps, he's allowed 39 pressures, 29 hurries, 5 sacks, and very solid run blocking grades. First things first, the measurables are absolutely there for Carmona, standing at 6'5", 315 pounds, and very good arm length. This frame gives him positional versatility, as he is built like a guard or center, but has the play style to play all around. In the run game, he has some very good play strength and knockback ability to keep edge defenders at the line of scrimmage. And in the pass game, his footwork is very solid and he's able to win the edge because of the amount of depth he gets on those sets. But he's got just as many negatives, which begins with his overall athleticism. His lateral agility is a huge negative in his game, unable to keep up with the speed rushers unless he gets super deep. He's also not too explosive off the line, and when he gets beat bad. His recovery blocking is not up to par because of this athleticism. Along with that, he tends to get overly aggressive with his physicality and will fall off balance if he gets beat there. As a result of all of this, Carmona is a very raw prospect who might need to use his 5th year before he enters the draft. But even if he's raw, he is also super intriguing and has some great upside. 2024 is crucial for him. Scouts are expecting him to bloom in this upcoming season as he does rank 8th on this consensus offensive line list. Moving on to number 7, we have a guy who started every game for Oregon in 2023 with tackle Josh Conerly Jr. As one of the best offensive linemen on one of the best offensive lines in the country last season, he's still got so much time to develop. That's because he wasn't draft eligible, and as a sophomore, he allowed 1 sack despite being the team's starting left tackle. Conerly is able to do this because of his freak athleticism for the position, which shows in multiple ways. For starters, his agility is top-notch for the position, being able to change direction at the same pace as some of the speed rushers. Speaking of speed, he's got the speed to get upfield fast, and the explosiveness to ensure that he gets first dibs to a spot. On top of this athleticism, he's got both the hand technique and the footwork to be a high IQ blocker in multiple situations. And he has the measurables for teams to enjoy, sitting at 6'4", 305 pounds, with some good arm length as well. There's a lot of positives to note, but on the other side of things, his anchor is nothing special and he needs to learn to set the edge more effectively. His technique is great but overall inconsistent, especially in his hands where he will fail to get under the pads on some occasions. And on some other occasions, he will hold the edge rusher and draw a penalty, as he did have 8 penalties in 2023, 3 of them came from 1 game. The inconsistencies are there as you would expect from a guy with just 1,000 snaps, but he's a well-rounded prospect, which is super impressive. With a guy of his caliber, he ranks in the 7th slot on this list. We've had 1 Georgia O-lineman on this list already, but we can make it 2 with their starting left tackle Ernest Green. Unlike Ratledge, Green has 1 year on his belt, but starting on that offensive line as a redshirt freshman is just unbelievable, and he only allowed 1 sack, just like Conerly, but his pressure numbers were lower and he graded similarly as a run blocker. With how much Green did in his first season, it's no surprise that he's ranked this high on the consensus big board. His positional versatility is something I've first noted, as he's listed as a guard on mock draft database, but works as a tackle with the Dogs. His frame makes it make sense, as he's 6'4", 320 pounds, but he does really play like a tackle because of his athleticism. He's extremely explosive off the line, and he has the agility to drop back and move with rushers off the edge. He's also a very high IQ blocker in the run, where he can use that athleticism and processing to beat defenders to their spots. But on the flip side, his technique and leverage could use some serious work, especially in the run game. He can play too high at points, and he fails to use his footwork to drop back far enough on some pass downs. On top of that, he can sometimes play overly aggressive and lose himself and his balance on run downs. So he's got some issues as both a run blocker and a pass blocker, but what different do you expect of a guy with his experience? With how good he looked as a freshman, don't be surprised if he goes in the first round in 2025. He's the 6th ranked player on this 2025 NFL Draft O-line list. 5 prospects down, 5 to go. We stay in the SEC as we move on to number 5, with another position versatile player in Alabama guard Tyler Booker. As the highest ranked interior O-lineman on this list, he's just like Green as he's ranked outside his current position. but with over 1,200 snaps as a left guard and the very solid production at the position, he's panned out to be a left guard. Besides, his frame really gives off that position as he stands at 6'6", 352 pounds. That's just monster-like. And he also has some very good play strength on the field, boasting some elite leg drive and upper body strength. But here's where the twist happens. Despite his size, Booker actually has above average athleticism for the position. He's very explosive off the line, and it shows everywhere, generating knockback in the run and depth in the pass. And that's why Booker could be seen as that versatile lineman. Negatively, his balance just is not good, and while he rarely plays overly aggressive, he could just fall off balance while trying to laterally match pass rushers. His arm length might be fairly good, but as an under-average lateral mover, he doesn't have great range as a blocker. And while he does have a monster frame, he could cut down some weight to gain even more athleticism. But overall, Booker is a fun prospect to look at because of what he provides, and for that reason, he's 5th on this list. The 4th spot on this list is held by a tackle formerly opposite of a 2024 first-round draft pick. That player is Arizona tackle Jonah Savanaia. Also listed inside on the database, just like Green, it's still a huge question whether or not this player is first-round caliber. As a 2-year starter trading time at right tackle and right guard, he has allowed 30 pressures and 4 sacks, and overall has graded better as a right tackle. Now, where does this proven versatility come from? Well, for starters, he's got the frame to play both at 6'5", 330 pounds. But he also has the situational awareness and the high IQ to understand both positions, and it's clear that he knows both of them very well. In terms of general traits, he's got the explosiveness off the line to get through his anchor super fast. He also has the play strength to push defenders around the edge, and it's already hard to cut inside of him due to his frame. On the flip side, his technique still does need some refinement, specifically his hand technique and his pad level. His recovery blocking is not good, and if he gets beat, he's unable to laterally adjust and finish through the block. And finally, his knockback ability is surprisingly under average, given his jump off the line and his nice play strength. But clearly, Savanaia has his strengths, and as a soon-to-be 3-year starter, he's going to be highly sought out in the 2025 NFL Draft. For that reason, he ranks number 4 on this consensus O-line list. These 3 guys have made up the top 3 for a while now, and 2 of them are on the same team, the LSU Tigers. The Tigers' right tackle is the first of the 2. That being Emory Jones Jr. Also a 2-year starter for his respective program, Jones has been a cornerstone on one of the best offensive lines in the nation. He did fight an injury last season, but still put up extremely efficient numbers in the pass game with 18 pressures and 2 sacks allowed. A lot of this success has to do with how physical he is all around the field, as his play strength is just great. He combines this with some of the best hand technique in college football to have elite grip strength. That'll pan out in the run game. He is also a high IQ pass protector who has a nice combination of letting the defender do the work first and having good aggression as well. And he's a great recovery blocker who can sustain and finish blocks even if he gets beat. Now, his athleticism just doesn't pan out as much as his physicals do, beginning with his below average lateral agility. He's just not quick by any means, and with some mediocre balance as well, he doesn't have great athleticism. He also will sometimes react too late to the snap, and allow faster edge rushers to get the extra step way too early. Jones puts together a very good physical skill set, and while the athleticism is lacking, he's still a first-round prospect. As a result, Jones is ranked 3rd on this list. The runner-up in this position isn't on LSU, but he is on a different SEC team. Texas tackle Kelvin Banks is yet another 2-year starter on this list. The former 5-star prospect has one of the best skill sets I've ever seen in an offensive tackle prospect. He's graded well as a run blocker, but even better as a pass blocker, as he's allowed 3 career sacks in over 1,000 snaps. He's got an elite combination of physicality and athleticism. Beginning with the physical traits, he's got a great frame at 6'4", 325 pounds. His play strength is also very solid as well, and combining that with his great length, he's really good at sustaining blocks. But the athletic traits stand out even more. His agility and anchor is elite in pass pro, and his explosiveness off the line is just wow. On the negative end of things, his technique could use some refining, especially on the consistency side of things. He can get overly aggressive and lose his balance way too often for comfort, allowing for inconsistent pressure numbers all around. And he will sometimes pull the trigger way too early when deciding to attack a defender. Banks is a very good offensive tackle prospect who combines a lot of traits to be a winner. If he can be more consistent, it's game over, which is why he just misses out on the number 1 spot on this list, ranking number 2. And finally, ranked number 1 on this 2025 NFL Draft offensive line list is none other than LSU tackle Will Campbell. After really putting himself on the map last season, he's made a huge name for himself as the potential 2nd overall pick to the New England Patriots. Last season, he was one of 15 offensive tackles with at least 750 snaps to not allow a single sack, and some top 2024 draft picks were up there with him. Combine that with the fact that he's your prototypical NFL offensive tackle, and we might be talking Joe Alt level talent. He's 6'6", 320 pounds. He has the ideal play strength that you want in a tackle, and he's got the very good athleticism to intimidate defenders. On the physical end of things, he uses great hand technique and overall play strength to just neutralize blockers beautifully. And on the athletic end of things, he uses explosiveness and lateral agility to be crazy good as a pass protector. And even then, he's a high IQ tackle who rarely makes mistakes because of his top-notch situational awareness. How does this guy even have negatives, you might be asking? Well, his footwork is very inconsistent when dropping back, which can explain the 17 pressures in 2023. He also can tend to pull the trigger too early in pass pro when jumping to the defender, allowing for rushers to get around the outside. And finally, his balance is just okay. He just has a lot of these concerns in pass pro, but the production is absolutely there. Campbell just needs to continue to prove his worth in 2024, and if he does, this number 1 overall ranking on the 2025 NFL Draft offensive line list is justifiable. Well, those are the current 10 best offensive linemen in the 2025 NFL Draft. Is there anyone that should be on this list? Let me know in the comments section below. Wait, are you not subscribed yet? Well, do it now. I release content like this all the time and would really appreciate your support. I'm Chase Keller from Chase Keller Journalism, and I will see you all next time.